Welcome back to Only Talk Sports. We talk sports every single day, or at least we try to. I'm Ernest Jeffrey. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Hit that notification bell so you never miss our video. The transfer portal just keeps on trucking along in college football, and me and WillND, we break down some of the more recent news to happen in the transfer portal, like Dante Moore transferring to Oregon, Kyle McCord going to Syracuse, Will Rogers going to Washington, and a whole lot more. We give our thoughts on most of the major transfers to happen in college football. The top guy in the portal, it's not Dante Moore, but it's been Aiden Childs from Oregon State. He finally went to Michigan State this week. So that's off the board.
We
It
all
was
thought that was
expected.
we all thought that was gonna happen because his head coach Jonathan Smith went to Michigan State and he followed him along. And who knows, man? Maybe the Spartans at least got to make a bowl this year, man. They got to at least go 7-5, I think, to show that they're going in the right direction. So hopefully for Aiden Childs and Jonathan Smith's sake, they can get to going at Michigan State. It'll be interesting to see how fast they improve.
We'll see. Michigan State, they've got enough, NIL to compete, not at the top probably, but in the middle pack of the Big Ten. And Aiden Childs has a lot of talent. I mean, that's why he's the highest rated guy according to 247 Sports in the portal. And again, it makes sense for him to follow his coach. I think they can possibly win 6-7 games with him, especially if he can develop. But up next, I cannot believe this. I honestly cannot believe Dante Moore was at Oregon, went to UCLA, and now he's going back to Oregon again to be a backup because there's no way that Dillon Gabriel is going to lose his starting job. There's no way that Dante Moore is going to pass out Dillon Gabriel. If he does, that would be absolutely insane. This is nuts, though. I don't know what you think about it, Will. Have your thoughts. What do you think about it? Because there's a lot to discuss with this one. But I just think this is a bad move by Dante Moore. I know NIL, I get Nike money, and there's a lot of factors here. But and even if you can say he's still a young guy, he can develop behind an experienced quarterback, Dillon Gabriel, and eventually start. Why transfer out from a program that you were starting at? You could have gone somewhere else to start, and now you're going to be a backup. This just doesn't make sense.
If I was Dante Moore, you know where I would have went, Jeffrey?
We mentioned Miami's a possible landing spot, but that's not the best option for him.
I would have went to Michigan.
Well, there was a lot of Michigan fans saying that, to be fair. They were saying that he was an option.
He's from Detroit, which is only like an hour from Ann Arbor. And I think he would have had a good chance to start. I mean, J.J. McCarthy is going to the NFL. We all assume he might come back. But I thought he would have a good chance to start there. I would have went there.
Yeah, someone like J.J. McCarthy, though, I would come back because of the fact you talk about how quarterback heavy this draft is. If he comes back another year, he could really move up the boards if he has another good season because it's a loaded QB draft. So I don't know. I mean, he could leave. If McCarthy left, I wouldn't blame him. But yeah, Dante Moore, I just think this is a bad move. I mean, I understand. Like Jack said, I think Dante Moore's sitting behind Gabriel, but I hope he takes all the advice from him and learn from. I mean, you can learn from an experienced quarterback, but my thing is why did he not go to Oregon in the first place? Because he was committed to Oregon. He could have sat behind Bo Nix this past season, but instead he went to UCLA, struggled, and now he's leaving to be a backup. It just, to me, makes no sense. Especially when you consider the fact there's a lot of ACC schools that he could start at. I mean, we're going to get to another guy that just went to an ACC school. So, I mean, Dante Moore could have gone there to an ACC school. He could have gone to a Big 12 school. I don't understand going to Oregon and being a backup. I don't get it. To me, it was a bad move by Dante Moore. He shouldn't have made this move. Again, money, he's going to make a lot of it. That's great. But he's not going to start next season, and I believe that he should have gone somewhere where he could have played. And if not, then he should have just stayed at UCLA.
Cam Ward still looking to see who will give him the most amount of money.
Yeah, Cam Ward, I keep seeing Ohio State thrown around. I think Miami's involved as well. But, I mean, Miami, he'd start for sure at Miami. Ohio State, he'd have to fight for the job. He probably would win the job there as well.
Ohio State fans are also thinking now the Malik Murphy will be their guy. Just went to the portal from Texas, which is kind of sad. Texas guy? Yeah.
But there's no experience involved there. At least Cam Ward has experience. You're going to give up Kyle McCord to get Malik Murphy, who has barely played. That would be a bad move to me for Ohio State. I know he's talented, but he doesn't have the experience.
I think it's pretty weak that he didn't stay with this team that's going to the playoff and enter the portal. I mean, that's a little sad.
Well, I mean, it's insane. This has never happened before, really, until this year. Because you even look at Alabama, Tyler Buckner. He could have transferred, to go to the lacrosse team after the playoff, right? But nope, he's in the portal now, and he's going back to Notre Dame lacrosse before, the playoffs even happen. So, yes, that's obviously becoming more of a thing. I mean, if it was me and I was on one of these teams, I would want to stay, and be able to celebrate with my teammates if we win the whole thing. But instead, I'm going to leave the program and already train. That I don't get it. I don't understand that at all. Another reason why the portal will be a lot better if it was after the season. After the playoffs and the bowl season, but it is what it is. The portal opens now, but I don't know. That just doesn't make sense. We'll have to see what happens with Cam Ward, but it definitely does seem like NIL is a factor here, and probably who does the most. Rob J says, Moore reminds me of JT Daniels chasing a school and never having success. And it's looking that way, and that's not smart. I mean, when you have a team that has you as their guy and you just leave, and now you're basically playing second fiddle to another guy. It makes no sense. I mean, it's not a good move at all.
Malachi Nelson, I mean, this is bad for USC because USC now doesn't have a 5-star quarterback on their roster right now. They're going to be like, hey, we're going to get Will Howard. We'll be all right. I'm like, yeah, but like Will Howard is probably going to be the least talented quarterback Lincoln Riley's worked with since he was at East Carolina.
Yeah, and see, the thing is this is the issue when you talk about USC because their defense is bad. And we know they just got a new defensive coordinator. We know that they're probably going to try to up that side of the ball, but they're going to have to. If they get Will Howard, they're going to have to up the defense. Because if not, they're going to lose games. And there's no way they're going to win in the new Big Ten with that type of defense with a quarterback like Will Howard. They've only been able to get by for the most part because of how talented Caleb Williams was. But like you said, now they're going to lose Caleb Williams. Now they're losing Malachi Nelson. Why is Malachi Nelson leaving? And why is USC going after Will Howard? Why didn't they go with their talented guy?
I mean, well, they're saying it's because Malachi Nelson got hurt and couldn't develop during the season.
Man, this is just getting crazy. I mean, you talk about Sam Hartman not playing in the bowl game for Notre Dame, even though he's not even probably going to barely get drafted high, and for Notre Dame to get some of their other guys some experience, and you got Ohio State booting out Kyle McCord, for like it's insane. These guys, they're just moving all over the place for a variety of reasons. It's fun, but it's also in a way kind of sad because there's like no loyalty with the players and even sometimes these teams anymore. They just want to ship you out if you're not ready. I mean, I hope USC knows what they're doing. All I know is they got to get a good defense because there it is. Will Howard, 100% chance according to 247 Sports to USC. Again, they're not going to win big games with Will Howard if their defense stinks. They have to get a good defense.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, I know maybe Will Howard's kind of similar to Baker when Lincoln Riley started working with Baker. Maybe that's probably the hope. Because I don't think Baker was that highly touted when he went into Oklahoma. And then he turned into a quarterback that had a good, very strong last 2 years with Oklahoma. So that I guess they're going to hope that they can make it happen with him.
Finn's going to Baylor. That's new. What do you think about that?
I mean, good pickup for Baylor, man. I mean, Baylor's really got to get it going after 2 bad years in a row. Not even making a bowl this year. It's a big year for Dave Aranda, 2024.
Yeah, he's a talented guy. Finn is, showcased his ability at Toledo. It's always tough to make the jump to the Power 4 schools. Since I got to say Power 4, Power 5's gone.
Yeah.
But Baylor's struggling. They had a bad year this past season. Dave Aranda, another bad season might be the nail in the coffin for him. So they need to get back to at least 6-7 wins, which no Texas and Oklahoma you would think would help him be able to do that. And maybe Finn will be that guy, but they're going to have enough talent around him because he's not going to be able to do it all on his own.
Kyle McCord to Syracuse. Do you like this fit?
I think it's great for Syracuse. Is it great for McCord? That's going to be to be determined because that's a massive downgrade. You're talking about going from the Horseshoe to the Carrier Dome. It's not even in the same league. We're talking about 100,000 screaming fans to like 40,000. It's a big downgrade. Syracuse, they just do not get the coverage that Ohio State gets. Nowhere close. I just feel like for McCord, that's a big drop. Like, he's not going from like Ohio State to Nebraska, right? Like, if he went to Nebraska, and even though they've been awful for the last 20 years, especially 10 years, they still got massive fan support. It's still a big football stadium. Like, that would have just been a good move for McCord to me, to go to Nebraska, even though they've been awful. I think the only reason this is a good move for McCord is that the ACC is so bad. It's been so bad lately. They're going to win games. Yeah. Syracuse is going to win games. And like you've mentioned, Will, a lot, Syracuse is doing quietly good in the portal. They're getting some good players. So if they have enough talent and McCord does not regress and he can continue to be decent, I think that Syracuse can win 7, 8, 9 games with McCord and with decent talent, because the ACC is up for grabs. I mean, we've seen not so great teams win 9, 10 games. Nothing against Louisville, but Louisville this past year, not one of the 15 or 20 best teams in the country. They won 10 games. We saw Pittsburgh do it with Kenny Pickett. A lot of examples of teams that were just good teams, but they won a lot of games. Virginia with Bryce Perkins. A lot of teams won games because the conference isn't good. So I think Syracuse has potential with McCord. He can't regress, and the talent needs to step up around him.
Yeah, man. My friend who's a Syracuse fanatic, man, he won't let me hear the end of it, man. He's so excited about his Syracuse football team.
Well, I think it's funny because it shows you the difference between Ohio State and Syracuse, though. Because, like, all the Ohio State fans, I'm so glad McCord's gone. He was terrible. Even though he led us to 11-1, it wasn't because of him. We won in spite of him. He's terrible. But then with Syracuse, it's like, we're getting the greatest quarterback in 20 years. He's from Ohio State. He's going to lead us back to great. It's unbelievable. I love the contrast. I love it. Will Rogers, perfect fit as well. Maybe not as good of a fit as Oregon with Dillon Gabriel, but I think that Will Rogers to Washington is a great fit.
It'll be interesting to see who will be better, Will Rogers or Dillon Gabriel, because I do think they're similar quarterbacks, similar level quarterbacks. Dillon Gabriel's just had more talent around him to work with. So that's what I'm going to be looking at for sure.
He's an air raid guy. In Washington with Kalen DeBoer likes to air it out. You saw Michael Penix this year slinging it downfield, and I believe Will Rogers is going to do the same thing. Will Rogers is underrated at Mississippi State. How much success he had with Mike Leach, and unfortunately with him being gone, he just could not have the same success with a different scheme. I think with him getting back to being in a passing-heavy attack, his numbers are going to go back up through the roof, and I think that he'll really showcase his ability. And thanks for being here, Edward. Appreciate it. It's not about the running, because that's where they're different. Gabriel can run. Will Rogers doesn't really run that much, but it's the passing part. Will Rogers can sling it anywhere, and he can sling it 60 times a game, and Gabriel's done the same thing. So I believe both transfers are fantastic for both schools. Oregon with Gabriel, Rogers with Washington. Kalen DeBoer, I mean, he wants to keep Washington good after Michael Penix. It's not just a Michael Penix Jr. thing and then they're done. No, he wants to keep him good after that, and I think Rogers will have way more talent around him than he had at Mississippi State, and it will probably be easier for him to win in the Big Ten at Washington than it would be at Mississippi State in the SEC. It's a great move for Rogers and a great move for Washington.
DJ, everyone says DJ's going to Florida State, which would just be crazy that he's going to Florida State after being at Clemson, like the two rivals.
I don't think that's an abysmal move for Florida State or DJ. It's a great move for DJ because he's probably going to start, and that's a great program. But it would seem like DJ's a bit of a downgrade from Travis. I mean, I know Travis used to not be that good, and he got a lot better over time. And maybe they can develop DJ the same way, because it seemed like DJ improved toward the end of the season. Like, overall, the Oregon State season that he had this past year, it wasn't bad. Oregon State had a good year. He wasn't terrible. He'll have more talent around him at Florida State, and the competition's not too stiff. So, I mean, it probably would be a good move for DJ, but would Florida State be able to have the same success next year with him? Would they be able to go undefeated or like go 11-1? I don't know. We'll see how good the ACC is next year. That's going to play a part. I don't really think Cal, Stanford, and SMU are really going to mix things up at the top of the conference. I think that DJ, if he goes to Florida State, I think they can probably win 10 games, but he might be a little bit of a downgrade from Travis, but it'll be a great move for him to go there.
Yeah, it would be fun to see DJ at Notre Dame Stadium again. All right, Tyler Van Dyke going to Wisconsin.
I mean, this isn't as bad of a downgrade as Kyle McCord to Syracuse because, I mean, Miami's not Ohio State and Wisconsin's better than Syracuse. And Camp Randall's a big stadium. They got a lot of fan support. So he's going to probably have more fans than Miami did. Miami is no one there. So, I mean, it's an upgrade. But, I mean, like, Wisconsin's offense, we're going to need to see Luke Fickell's offense finally become what it wants to be, what it needs to look like, because Wisconsin was fighting a losing battle this year, and we knew this was going to happen, Will. Last year when he got the head coaching job, everybody at Wisconsin thought it was going to be an instant transition. It wasn't, because you had a lot of players from the old staff that they recruited that were used to the old style of play. And when you've got Braylon Allen and Ches Malusi, even though Ches Malusi got hurt halfway through the year, but when you got two dynamic backs, you can't really go all in on your passing game. You kind of had to run the ball more than Luke Fickell would like to. So to me, for Tyler Van Dyke to have success, he has to stay healthy, number one. And then you're going to have to see Wisconsin get more to where Luke Fickell wants that offense to look like it was at Cincinnati. And if that starts showing itself, if you start seeing Wisconsin become more of that pass-heavy attack and they can get some more talent on the outside, because Wisconsin does not have a lot of that right now. If they can get more talent on the outside, I think it will be a good move both ways for Wisconsin and Tyler Van Dyke. But as of now, it's kind of an uncertainty.
Yeah, I mean, Wisconsin, they're going to have a tougher time next year, man. The Big Ten West is no more. They're going to have to play a actual, like, mixture of the Big Ten schedule, of course, with Oregon, Washington, USC, and UCLA. So they needed an upgrade from Tanner Mordecai, man. Tanner Mordecai didn't really work out.
Like you said, Will, the training wheels are off. The Big Ten West is dead. And you're going to have all those teams in the Big Ten, and Wisconsin and Iowa, those teams are going to have a hard time winning 8-9 games like they used to in the Big Ten West. Like, if Wisconsin and Iowa win 8 or 9 games in the new Big Ten, they've had a great season. It is going to be hard for them to achieve that. But I think Wisconsin is in a little bit better shape than Iowa is right now, based off of what Wisconsin's trying to do, the coach that they have, and if Tyler Van Dyke can get back to some of the success he had at Miami. Because people forget, he did have success at Miami, especially before a lot of his injuries. So we'll see. He just needs talent around him.
And he also needs to not throw interceptions.
Can't throw interceptions.
Grayson McCall doing the reverse Tim Beck move.
That's like a double cross. Like, you're going to go against the grain. Tim Beck coming to Coastal, and now you go to NC State where he came from. That's hilarious. That really, really is. I mean, Grayson McCall, he needs this.
Yeah.
If he's going to have any shot to get back to favor with, I guess, draft scouts, because he did have some potential and hype in that regard at one time. But I believe, even though it was great for Coastal that they were able to keep him another year, because they did end up making a bowl game this season, Grayson McCall needed to leave the previous year. I know the whole debacle with Florida, a lot of people thought he was going there, and then I think maybe it could have been academics. I don't really know the full scoop on that, but McCall ended up returning to Coastal. But him returning to Coastal hurt him more than it helped him, because they didn't have as good of a year. He got injured, and now people have just kind of forgotten about him. So he's going to have success at NC State this year if he's going to build up back any of his draft stock at all.
It's so funny, the coincidence with Tim Beck, though.
It is. Like, the more you think about it, the more funny it gets, because it can't be a coincidence. It's so ironic.
Nate Johnson going to Vanderbilt?
That's a downgrade. That is a downgrade. At that rate, you might as well have gone to the American Conference.
Yeah.
Why go to Vanderbilt? I mean, we're talking
good
about
education. Maybe he's not thinking football first. Maybe he wants to think about his post-football life.
I mean, that's fine. Like, I'm happy for him in that regard, right? I mean, academics are important, and I feel like a lot of times that gets forgotten about when it comes to players. You think about, go to Alabama, USC, these teams with NIL. That's great, but academics are important. I can't stress that enough. They're very important, and what you do with that, especially if you're not going to be playing in the NFL, it's awesome. But really, I mean, Nate Johnson is a talented player. I mean, he needs to get better passing the ball because he can run. We know he can run. Maybe he could be what Mike Wright was the year Vanderbilt beat Kentucky and Florida. I mean, because Mike Wright using his legs and he was okay at passing. Maybe that's what they sold to Nate Johnson, and maybe academics are important to him. But Utah to Vanderbilt, because if it's academics, he's making the right move there. But if it's for on-the-field success, he's not going to succeed at Vandy. Curtis Rourke going to Indiana. The Hoosiers got a QB, 4-star rated transfer. Big leagues, Kurt Signetti. This is a good move because Curtis Rourke had a lot of success at Ohio. They've won games the last couple years. He was injured this past year a bit, so his stats weren't as good, but if he can get healthy. And Indiana also has brought in Miles Cross, wide receiver from Ohio. So they got a little chemistry there with a wide receiver coming over to Indiana. The Hoosiers are working hard in the portal. They're getting some good players. I think Curtis Rourke could lead Indiana to a bowl game if Signetti can continue his winning ways as a coach and bring that to IU. Curtis Rourke, if he has any shot at going to the NFL, probably has a better shot at Indiana than with Ohio.
Do you think he'll be better than Brandon Sorsby?
That's a great question. The sad thing about it, though, Will, I believe that the only thing that stinks about this is that Brendan Sorsby is young with a lot of room for growth. Whereas Curtis Rourke, this is his last year of eligibility. I think that it's a good move since Indiana lost Sorsby, but I still probably would have wanted Sorsby because of him being able to continue to improve and develop as a young guy. But Indiana made this move because Taven Jackson and also they got a couple other guys, Brock Lowry and Alberto Mendoza, are so young that they need a lot of time to develop. And Indiana's in on Tyler Cherry as well. Tyler Cherry, the former Duke commit, he's down to Indiana and Michigan State. So Indiana could get Tyler Cherry as well. We'll see if that happens. But I think that Rourke's a little bit below Sorsby just in the fact Sorsby could develop. But I think this is about the best Indiana could do.
KJ Jefferson, where will he go? That's where I'm interested in. Because he's got to stay in the Power 4, right?
He's only rated as a 3-star transfer. They obviously didn't see Arkansas when they were winning. Because he was good when they were winning.
And he was good against Florida. I mean, Florida's defense stinks, but he was good against Florida.
KJ Jefferson, the thing is will he be able to recover from the end of the Arkansas tenure era there where he fell apart? And I know a lot of it was because he didn't have enough talent around him as he used to. Mm-hmm. And their O-line was abysmal this past season. Yeah. But will he be able to recover from that? And I think he needs to stay in the Power 4 if he's going to have any NFL chance. It's harder to go to the NFL from a group of 5 school. It's not impossible, but it's harder because you are trying to convince the NFL that you can play at the highest level of football in the NFL after coming from a group of 5 school. That's not easy. You can do it, but it's a lot easier to convince them when you're winning at the highest level in college football in the Power 4. So hopefully KJ Jefferson can find a school.
How about Oregon State for KJ?
It's not a terrible move because Oregon State, I mean, what are people even going to consider them? Power anything? I mean, they're like flirting between the Power 4 and the group of 5.
They're like what BYU used to be.
Yeah. So, I mean, it wouldn't be a terrible decision because it wouldn't be like you're falling off a cliff to a really small school, but we'll see. Oregon State's just in a weird spot. I think KJ Jefferson just has to go to a place where he knows he's going to have success and he's going to be able to improve on any draft stock he has left because he had some a couple years ago.
Cal got their guy, Chandler Rogers from North Texas.
The funny thing about this guy, Will, though, is that he's transferred. This is his 5th school. Did you know that? We're talking about JT Daniels, right? 4 schools. Chandler Rogers has transferred to 5 different schools. Southern Miss, Blinn, that's small school, like community college maybe. Louisiana Monroe, North Texas, and Cal. 5 schools for this guy. So, I mean, he did well at North Texas this past year, given the circumstances, because North Texas didn't really have a good season. And he did all right at Louisiana Monroe. He seems to be an improving guy, But for Cal, I mean, is Mendoza out of eligibility? Fernando Mendoza, because he was the starting quarterback this past year.
No, he's definitely not.
Yeah. So if he has more years left, then those two are going to be competing for the job. It's not even a guarantee Chandler Rogers wins the job. So it is what it is. I don't think it's a terrible move for Cal to get in another quarterback that could be their guy, especially if they think Fernando Mendoza needs more development, because he is experienced. You see a lot of experience right there. But the fact that he's been to 5 different schools, I don't know what that really means. I mean, he hasn't been committed to anywhere. He's just left.
AJ Swan going to go to LSU.
He's not going to start. Yeah, they got Garrett Nussmeier. I don't think he's gone anywhere else. I guess he would have a shot, but that's a big downgrade from Jane Daniels.
Yeah.
Nothing against Swan, but like he's not going to be able to get anywhere close to replicating what Jane Daniels did. And it would be the exact same situation as USC with Will Howard. They need to improve the defense. If LSU is going to be able to win with AJ Swan or Garrett Nussmeier, defense needs improvement, because Jane Daniels carried that thing. He carried that team this year, winning 9 games with how abysmal that defense was. So USC, LSU, if you get Will Howard and AJ Swan, you need a better defense.
Ty Thompson's still looking for a home.
Man, Ty Thompson fall from grace. Only a 3-star transfer or to 247. Even though he's a 5-star recruit. Oh, man, Cam Fancher's leaving Marshall. Oh, no, for Buckeye Mike. Oh, no. Cam Fancher is leaving the Thunder Nerd. That's all we heard about this year, Will, was Cam Fancher and Rasheed Ali. Marshall, he's gone. I'm sorry. That's just funny. That's funny. Sorry, Buckeye Mike. Cam Fancher is leaving. Where's he going to go? I mean, I don't think he can go up.
LSU hosting Cam Fancher.
He would go with Swan, I'm sure, over Fancher.
Apparently the fans hated him.
The fans didn't like. Did they not like him because they think he's no good, or did they not like him because like he rubbed them the wrong way?
The kid has been miserable.
That still doesn't answer the question. Miserable because he doesn't play well, or his attitude?
I guess he didn't play well. 11 touchdowns, 11 interceptions.
Why would LSU host the guy that had 11 touchdowns and 11 picks at Marshall? Doesn't even make any sense. Wow. LSU, there's no way they're getting Cam Fancher unless he wants to be a backup. What do you think about that move? Rocket Sanders going to South Carolina. Do you think that's a lateral move, a downgrade, an upgrade? What are you feeling on that?
Slight upgrade?
Yeah, it's like barely an upgrade, right?
Yeah.
Like I was thinking the same thing, because Arkansas is in bad shape right now, but South Carolina's not much better. But I mean, it's a good pickup for them because he is talented. Oh, Marcus Carroll, the Georgia State running back. I told you he's going to the Power 4. He's going to Missouri. I knew it because we were talking about him as being the best running back for Georgia State, not playing. That was going to hurt them in the bowl game. And I had a feeling because he had 1,300 yards last year at Georgia State. I was like, he's going to a Power 4 school, and Missouri picked him up. So that's a great addition for Missouri.
Chaney hopefully won't fumble when they're supposed to knee down.
Oh, man. I mean, it's insane how hilarious that play was. I mean, I felt so bad for Miami fan, but at the same time, it was hilarious. I mean, you blew the game. All you had to do was kneel. And you literally fumble the football because you run a play, and then you lose to Georgia Tech. And that's why Georgia Tech made a bowl game. If they lose that game, Georgia Tech wouldn't even have made a bowl game. So you can thank Miami blundered right there for Georgia Tech. If Chaney doesn't fumble, he should play for Louisville. Yeah, Fleming, the smoke on him is that he's going to Penn State.
That sucked for Syracuse. They were hoping they would get him.
Well, he still could with McCord going there, but still a lot of people are saying Penn State. It's a lot bigger of a program, and I'm sure he'd want to be at still a program with a massive fan base. Nothing with Syracuse, but Penn State is better than Syracuse. Ja'Cory Brooks, Austin was happy about this edition. I don't know what happened with Ja'Cory Brooks, though. I mean, he had a great year in 2022. He had the great catch in 2021 that kind of put him on the map in the Auburn game. That helped Alabama stay in the playoff race. And then this past year, he didn't play much. You had Bond and Burton, and Brooks didn't really play much. Like, he didn't have significant passes thrown his way. So it stings that he fell out of favor with Alabama and didn't play much, but I think it's a good pickup for Louisville. I don't know if he'll be as good as Thrash. Maybe he could be. But I think that it's tough that Alabama was never able to really bring out all the talent in him, because he does have a lot of talent. Edwards says that he was hurt. Okay. Well, if he was hurt, I mean, he could have come back and played this year, next season, but it is what it is. Probably wants to be the feature guy.
Donovan McCulley coming back.
Donovan McCulley coming back to Indiana. This is big. This is big news because Donovan McCulley, I'm not saying he's going to be an NFL receiver or not, but he's got the size, 6'5", 210. Caught a one-handed pass against Wisconsin. He was developing big time toward the end of the year. Former quarterback. He's really starting to come into his own as a wide receiver. And Curtis Rourke going to Indiana, I think that will help him out because Rourke can throw downfield. So huge for IU. And Indiana quietly doing some things in the portal. I know people still think they're going to stink. It's going to be tough in the Big Ten. A lot of great teams. But getting McCulley back, especially when Florida State, Ole Miss, other guys were looking at him, big for Indiana. Ole Miss picked up the two biggest edge names in the portal. Wow. That's big for their defense, especially with Lane Kiffin being more known for offense. It shows that they're trying to beef up the D.
They're trying to bring back the Land Shark days.
There it is, Marvin Jones going to Florida State. That's what he was talking about earlier, Jason. That's big for them because anybody from Georgia that's highly rated, they're probably good players.
Walter Nolan going to Ole Miss.
Has he announced that yet, or is it not official?
Well,
right?
It's the crystal ball.
Because I'm seeing in the chat they're saying that Ole Miss, Hummus here said he thinks Ole Miss got a demonstrative defensive talent from A&M. They must have the number one portal class, Walter Nolan, but it doesn't say it as official yet. So if they do land him, though, that would be insane for them to get three of the top, like defensive line guys, edge guys. That would really beef up that defense and make it very hard to run on them. Walter Nolan, he's the highest rated guy in the portal.
He was the number one rated player in the 2022 class.
Yeah, he was a part of that number one recruiting class for A&M.
He was the number one player in that class.
And it's all disintegrated. Most of them are gone from A&M, which is tough for them. But yeah, I think that Ole Miss, they can land them. Their defense is definitely going to be better next season. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Like this video down below. Comment down below what you think about the transfer portal cycle in college football this year and what you think about guys like Dante Moore going to Oregon, Kyle McCord going to Syracuse, and where some of these other guys have decided to transfer as well, and how you think the rest of the transfer portal cycle is going to shake out. Follow me on Twitter as well. Link is in the description, and I'll see you next time.